Over 600 million rand has been set aside for businesses affected by the July unrest. Now it's hoped that this will help to save over 5,500 jobs. The relief fund was approved by the National Empowerment and Solidarity Funds. And let's speak now to the Chief Executive of the NEF, CEO who joins us this morning to talk through the fund. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Let's talk through that fund that I've just mentioned in my intro. How were the funds disbursed exactly, and which SMMEs were the ones that were targeted when it came to the focus of the particular fund?
Good morning, Rufiwa, and thank you for having me. So the SMMEs that we were looking at were SMMEs that were affected by the riots in July last year. So the SMMEs had to be located in either Gauteng or KZN. So it was mostly, SMMEs in your retail sector, agro-processing sector. It was in the logistics businesses. So you would have seen the trucks that were transporting goods between Gauteng and KZN. So those trucks were also torched. So it was a wide range of, companies that we're looking at. So you'd find that some of the companies, the SMMEs, were already in the formal sector. So what the NEF, in partnership with the Solidarity Fund, tried to do was to move some of the companies, SMMEs, that were in the informal sector by providing the advisory services, mentorship, formalizing them, registration with SARS, and so on. So we are very delighted today, Rufua, that we have actually been able to fully commit. It's in total, it's 880 million rands that has been fully committed. And then within the 880 million, obviously we had received 650 million rands directly from the DTIC, which came about as a result of that appropriations bill that was passed by Parliament. So we're very excited that a lot of those companies are now, back into full operations. And then you have a few like in your property sectors of the economy that are actually still busy with the construction of their malls that were also damaged during the riots. Yeah.
And that's an important point that you bring up in terms of the recovery that is still happening after the July unrest. So you've got that element that's happening, businesses in KZN still picking up the pieces, and now they are dealing with the devastation of the floods as well. Are you having any conversations or engagements with the different stakeholders that are part of the fund to extend assistance to now accommodate those who've now been affected by the floods?
Yes, Rufua. In fact, we have already started having urgent, talks and discussions with our various partners. So our key partner here has been the Solidarity Fund to actually see, because the NEF, we have demonstrated our technical capabilities in terms of providing this financial support, because remember that we're not just dispersing the funds, but there is a lot of technical assessments, like you have to conduct a proper due diligence, on the businesses that were affected. Our employees were physically on the ground, interacting with the various entrepreneurs that were affected. So we have the technical expertise, we have the track record, and the Solidarity Fund has also mentioned that they are very, very impressed with the way we're able to deploy the funds. So we're having a second round of discussions with them. It's still early days. I'm sure by Monday or Tuesday, they will be able to guide us in terms of what needs to happen. So in the kitty, so I'm talking about the kitty that had DTIC funds, NEF funds, and Solidarity funds, we still have about 140 million rands that can be, urgently deployed. So yesterday I saw one of our enterprises that we had supported. They are involved in the funeral parlors. we had supported about 8 of their funeral parlors. So I saw the owner of the funeral parlor in KZN saying that they've gone back to square one. So which means they can't even assist our government in terms of providing the necessary support, because we have to make sure that we give, the people who have, and the families who have lost their loved ones. And by the way, Rufio, I do want to express our deepest condolences. This is a horrendous tragedy for our country. We didn't think we would find ourselves in this situation again. So we're saying, as the implementation agent of government and the Solidarity Fund, that our troops are actually ready to be deployed. These are young professionals. You have CAs, you have engineers, you have, you name them, investment professionals who are saying, insofar as trying to resuscitate the businesses that have been affected, talking to our businesses that were already affected by the riots, that we have our database. There will be no need for us to start all over again to mine the data, because we already have this data at our disposal. We're just ready to get onto our sneakers and be on the ground physically in KZN, because with the first round of the unrest, we had about 40 professionals, investment professionals, who were physically on the ground. You can't do this work remotely from Gauteng or from Sentin, so you have to be on the ground so that we can start interacting with the affected businesses.
No, absolutely. I mean, how much funding has been approved to date, and maybe more encouragingly, the amount of jobs that have been created since the implementation of the fund?
So we have already approved a total of 880 million rands. So in the 880 million rands, so as I have already alluded, you have 270 million that came in the form of grant funding from the Solidarity Fund, and we are truly, truly grateful to the Solidarity Fund, and because I'm sure you can imagine, Rufio, if our businesses find themselves in this crisis, you can then expect them to accept just, the loan or debt financing. So it had to be a combination of concessionary funds that came directly from the GTIC and the grant funding portion that came from the Solidarity Fund. So in total, in the pot, we have approved a total of 880 million rands, and we have supported in excess of 8,000 jobs that have been, maintained and supported. We were doing the site visit with the chairperson of the Solidarity Fund on Thursday. So we went to Soweto because they wanted to also conduct and satisfy themselves that the funds that had been allocated to the NEF, that they had actually been put to good use, and that there was no fraud and corruption. And we're very delighted that this is where we are. We actually got a clean audit opinion on the funds that had been allocated to us. So it's a whopping 880 million rands. So the total pot was sitting at 1.1 billion. So we're almost there, because if you look at our pipeline, looking at what is sitting at due diligence phase and at approval stage, we will be able to actually fully disperse the funds that have been allocated to us. But in the meantime, given the crisis that we are faced with as a country, we are then appealing to our government to actually say, let's reallocate some of the funds that we already have in the kitty, so that we can, try and respond as a matter of urgency to the crisis that has hit us as a country in KZN.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, Ms. Philisiwe Mthethwa, who's the Chief Executive of the National Empowerment Fund, talking to us about funds that have been disbursed and really the plan that's going to be coming up to help those who have been hit by the most recent crisis, and that being those floods in KZN.